we hit $3,300 this morning. And this project has a pre-tax NPV of over $3 billion at today's gold price. And it's over $2.5 billion post-tax NPV. So when you look at the CapEx to kind of post-tax NPV ratio, probably one of the most undervalued gold projects in the market today. And as we have discussed before, our job is to get people interested in the story. This is going to be a tremendous project.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV. So today I am happy to be joined by Brett Richards, Chief Executive Officer at Pasofino Gold. So Brett, thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Amy.
Always a pleasure. And I thought we could start with just a bit of an introduction to Pasofino Gold. Can you tell us about the company and your Dugbe Gold Project?
Yeah, absolutely. The project, the Dugbe Gold Project's been around for many years, actually. It has about a 15-year history, with Hummingbird Resources making the first discovery back around 2010. We have quite a large land package, over 2,000 square kilometers in southern Liberia in West Africa. And over the course of the last 10 years, we have drilled over 150,000 meters. And we actually have a feasibility study that was done on the project in 2022.
Okay, great. So I wanted to get a little bit deeper into the Dugbe Gold Project. And so as you mentioned, you completed a feasibility study in 2022. So can you share some of the results that came out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 4 million ounces of total resource, 3.3 million of measured indicated at a grade of 1.37 grams per ton. And we have about 620,000 ounces of inferred. So out of the measured indicated, 2.3 million ounces went through the project, and we have large reserve on that as well. And the production profile is over 14 years, and the project will produce 200,000 ounces a year for the first 5 years, but on average for the 14 years, it'll produce 171,000 ounces. It's a 5 million ton a year operation, and CapEx is around $435 million, and that's inflation adjusted to 2025. And the all-in sustaining costs are just over $1,050 US. So quite a margin in today's gold price environment. When you're looking at, we hit $3,300 this morning. And this project has a pre-tax NPV of over $3 billion at today's gold price. And it's over $2.5 billion post-tax NPV. So when you look at the CapEx to kind of post-tax NPV ratio, probably one of the most undervalued gold projects in the market today. And as we have discussed before, our job is to get people interested in the story. This is going to be a tremendous project.
Absolutely. And, can you share any plans that you have next for the project?
Well, I think the logical next steps are as a result of the gold price environment today. This project had the resource calculated on $1,600 gold constrained pit shells. The project was run on $1,700 gold. And we're in a $3,300 gold environment today. So the first thing that I'm going to do is we are going to update the feasibility study, and we're going to make more reasonable assumptions in the environment that we're working in today, which are only going to add to the stellar economics of this project. So that'll be the first thing. We will do some drilling over the next 6 to 8 months, both to increase the quality of the resource, bring in some indicated into measured, and we will do some additional met test work, because all of the economic outputs from the feasibility study in November of 2022 were based on kind of 83% recovery. And quite frankly, given the mineralogy and given the metallurgy of the project, I actually think we can do better than that. So every 1% of recovery actually means about $60 million of free cash flow and 75 million dollars of NPV to the project. So it is really meaningful to try and look at ways to not only increase the economic outputs by changing the gold price, but also making the project better and faster and stronger, and in all those categories.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to look a little bit into southern Liberia, which is part of the Birimian geological province, and that's where you're operating. Can you talk about the region's history and the significance for the gold industry?
Yeah, Liberia, as you know, Amy, I've worked in a number of locations in West Africa in my career, and I built mines in Burkina, in Mali, in Sierra Leone, and in Guinea. And Liberia is one of the most stable democracies in West Africa, if not the most stable democracy. And they've had that stable democracy in place since 2013. They have a strong U.S. presence there, a large U.S. embassy. They speak English and they trade in US dollars as well as a local currency. So I think that starting point, that stability, that geopolitical stability is very important for investors to make decisions to invest in Africa generally, but in any geopolitical environment today. It is a well-established gold and iron ore kind of industry in Liberia. However, there's only 6 operating companies, mostly in iron ore, and there's a couple of gold companies as well. But I really think this is one of the last West African kind of frontiers as far as looking for undervalued, underdeveloped, and underexplored areas of the Birimian Greenstone. This is where you're going to come, Western Cote d'Ivoire and Liberia. So I think there's a really strong investment case here to look at the country and the stability of the country as extremely investable.
Yeah, I mean, certainly being able to kind of mitigate those country risks it's quite necessary for any investors. And so I wanted to look now at the cooperation agreement that you have with Hummingbird Resources and Nyoko Resources. So this was signed in March this year. So, what does this mean for the company? And
Well, I think it means great things. First of all, we had Hummingbird Resources PLC, a listed company in London, as our major shareholder. And through a series of events, they were taken over by Nyoko Resources. And although we had a number of mechanisms in place to work with Hummingbird over the last few years, they found themselves in kind of a financial distress, and they weren't able to participate in the financings and the fundraisings that I think Pasofino should have done over the past couple of years to advance the project and to be in a better position today. They simply didn't have the financial wherewithal to do that. Nyoko Resources, which is an entity owned by Coris Bank in West Africa, had the ability to fund this going forward. So not only are we aligned strategically, we entered into a standstill agreement that means that I can't sell the project and they can't buy the project for 18 months, which allows us to execute on our strategy. And that is updating the feasibility study, getting this to a new bankable study, doing some pre-construction work on the ground to allow for the road infrastructure and the port infrastructure to handle a construction project of this magnitude. And then, in 12 months time, once the feasibility study is updated, we'll announce the new economic outputs of it, but we'll also look to start project financing. And the bank, Coris Bank and Nyoko, will be well positioned to assist in that regard as well.
okay, great. And so this agreement is essentially helping to fund that kind of the next steps that you're planning for the company, I take it.
Yeah, no, it is. So they have agreed, part of the cooperation and funding agreement is that, or support agreement, is that they have agreed to fund their pro rata share up to $10 million for the balance of this year and up to $15 million for all of next year. So, in my view, this is, the perfect runway we need collectively and as a company when you have a major shareholder and a controlling block shareholder, this is the runway that we need to create tremendous value. You know, Pasofino, if we look at comparables, if we look at industry comps and where we should be positioned, we should be looking at anywhere from $30 to $50 an ounce today. We should be a $200 million company, given the stage of development we're at, and given the economic outputs that we already know based on the 2022 feasibility study. But they are only going to get better when you start to look at a gold price that's almost 100% greater than what we used in the previous feasibility study. So this is going to be one extremely robust project that we now have the time to unlock that value, and we now have the time to bring in new investors into this story. And quite frankly, this is about making money, Amy, and I'm going to make our investors a lot of money.
Sounds great. And so, finally, any near-term news that we should be on the lookout for from Pasofino Gold? So you already talked about kind of looking to update that feasibility study. What else can we be on the lookout for?
Yeah, a number of real, I would call them kind of micro activities that we're doing. Yes, we will be working with a engineering firm to look at the various aspects of the existing feasibility study to update them. We will be starting some drilling. We will be working with our government and with our communities on advancing our role within the mineral development agreement that we signed in 2019. Quite frankly, this is all about getting ready to build a large project, and it will be the largest gold project in Liberia. And what a great time to be in this position. What a great gold environment and a gold forecast to be in this position. Goldman Sachs just predicted $4,000 gold by the end of the year, and consensus gold prices right now are well north of $3,000 for the balance of this year. So we're in a very, very good environment to get this work done and to get this into construction in as quick a period of time as possible. So pretty exciting time to be a Pasofino shareholder.
Absolutely. I can imagine. And the gold price, I mean, it's certainly going to be helping these companies such as yourselves. So Brett, those were all the questions that I had for you today. I look forward to catching up with you again in a few weeks at the One-to-One London event. But otherwise, thanks for joining us here today at the Assay.
Amy, thanks for the time, and look forward to seeing you.